Good morning and welcome to Behind the Screen. This is a show where we hang out, we talk about things that are beautiful, things that inspire us, things that relate to gaming. And it might seem strange because we're in the series called Malazadvent, which is a time where we're going to be looking at Malazan Books of the Fallen. If you haven't had a chance to look at our interview with Steven Erickson and E154, please go check that out. It's on the YouTube channel. It was a wonderful discussion. Good morning to Padre and John. Always good to see both of you. And today we're going to talk about the Seven Cities stories. We're going to continue our look at Malazan. Got to remember to do that. John, where's your for me? Malazan, Books of the Fallen, Malazan Empire, and the books that take place on the continent of Seven Cities. Now, there will be some spoilers here, but there will also be a way to kind of look at how we can use this for our games. And going back to something John Doom said on the interview that we had with Erickson and Esselmont, I have really been giving a lot of thought on how I would do a Malazan role-playing game set in using Savage Worlds, and I think that there's an easy way to do that. If I were going to run a Malazan game, I would definitely just use Savage Worlds. I don't know what else to say about that. Between the trappings and the ease of arcane backgrounds, as well as there would be some interesting ways to scale up between kind of marine scale characters and the Ascendant characters. Also, yeah, I can vouch for the fact that we are really enjoying our Savage Worlds Rise of the Rune Lords campaign that John Doom is running. So what is Seven Cities? So Seven Cities primarily is focused on, in the books, Dead House Gates, as well as House of Chains and the Bone Hunters. And the Seven Cities subcontinent is a subcontinent where, oh, Shadow of Dragons, thank you so much. Where the Empire sort of came to rest for a while. They invaded Seven Cities, and it was a long and protracted war, and a lot of things seem to have happened in the middle of this assault on the Seven Cities subcontinent. Now, the Seven Cities subcontinent is a very desert area, a very barren area, save for the seven cities that are kind of the eponymous continental name. And it is a rich continent that has multiple layers of history going back all the way to something called the First Empire. Now, when we first see Seven Cities, it is it's in the middle of a rebellion. And this rebellion explodes in Dead House Gates and then continues on through House of Chains and sort of wraps up in Bone Hunters. And from what I could infer from our interview with Steve and Cam's next book, In the Paths of Ascendancy, will also take place in Seven Cities. I think we're going to actually see the Empire's claiming of the subcontinent. So why is the rebellion such a big deal? Well, the Malazan Empire has a lot of things that have been going for it. Sort of, it's egalitarian, it's reliance on the intelligence of the soldiers in the field, its mixed unit composition, and its commanders. All of that got tested when they went to Seven Cities. In the Seven Cities, they fought against these holy warriors who seemed to be almost like paladins of the city. And there was a large conflict between the seven warriors and Dasim Ultor, the first sword, the mortal sword of the Empire, the first sword, this hero of Malaz that was dedicated to Hood, and his guard, who we actually meet some of his guard in the Malazan Empire series, like Temper and several others. And Dasim Ulter dies in the Seven Cities campaign, cut down during kind of one of the largest battles. And the Malazan Empire, through reasons we don't understand yet, finally breaks the hold and the rebellious spirit of the Seven Cities, who again are fighting for their homeland, because of through use of the Talan and Mas. And it's something called the Slaughter of Arn. Arn is one of the Seven Cities, and the Talan and Mas are these immortal undead warriors who can reduce themselves to dust and travel. And the Emperor loosed them, at least on the surface, the Emperor loosed them on the citizenry of Arn, and it is this massive destruction. So, Deadhouse Gates follows this rebellion, the start of what's called Shaik's rebellion. Shaik is this holy figure, a prophetess, prophesied to release Dresna, the goddess of the whirlwind, this holy apocalypse in the Seven Cities area. And it happens, and it is a bad time for all. Primarily a bad time for Coltane and the Seventh, who embark on something known as the Chain of Dogs, where they are attempting to rescue civilians, Malazan nobility, who are ungrateful bastards who they're the dogs that Coltane's army is chained to. And we get this amazingly heartbreaking march south to get to Arn. We are also introduced to a figure by the name of Malak Rel. And let me express how much I detest this character in the series. I think we talked about it in the interview, that even when Cam introduced him in the prequels, The Paths of Ascendancy, he's still just a cold-hearted bastard, and he's awful through the whole series. In fact, if I could bring one fictional character to life, just to slowly choke and watch the light go out of their eyes, it would be Malak Rel. That's how much hatred I have invested in this fictional character. After the Chain of Dogs, we hit House of Chains, which kind of rewinds a little bit and shows us some of the rebellion more from the point of view of Shaik's rebellion. We also see the rise of the Bone Hunters, the newest army in the Malazan Empire, which actually become the focus of the latter half of the books. We meet Tavore Paran, who is the brother of Ganois, who we met in Gardens of the Moon. She's now the new adjunct of the Empress, the right-hand woman, if you will. There's a lot going on in just these three books in the ancillary tie-ins. We learn about the history of a lot of these things that have only been referenced in the Genebakian saga. We learn a little bit about the history and the future of Soul Taken, those magicians who could turn into a single animal, or the divers who can assemble into multiple creatures, like a swarm of rats or a pack of wolves. We learn the origin of Otataro, the red metal that is magic deadening. We see some of those brutal stories in the series. The Chain of Dogs, Felison's story, the Siege of Yigatan. And these are all just heartbreaking moments. And I have a friend who read all the way through House of Chains. I think he made it through to Bone Hunters. And as soon as he realized Bone Hunters was going back into that effing desert, as he put it, he's like, I'm done. I can't go into that desert again. And it's true. The Desert of Raraku, which is like this main geographic feature of the Seven Cities, is... well, it's never a good time. So, what can we take from this series of books, the Seven City Stories, and take to our games? Like, why engage in this? Well, one, I think if you ever want to see how an actual rebellion and uprising would be, reading these 3 books are going to really key you in to the brutal humanity that goes on in something like this. The fact that we see people on the same side turning on each other, settling old grievances, because who's going to notice in the midst of a rebellion? If you want to see how sieges would actually affect characters and players in your game, this is going to give you a lot of insight into that. It also is an interesting study in how to layer history in a way that your players may find engaging, as opposed to lore dumping. Giving them hints and shadows and allowing them to piece it together is very well done across these 3 series of books. Yes, Padre, deserts are always a place of testing. In fact, this is where the bridge burners originated. They originated during the original subjugation of the 7 cities, chasing Quickben and 6 other mages, or more than that, I think, 15 other mages, across the desert of Raraku and being reforged. I said there was going to be spoilers in this. Oh, don't worry. This is all in book 3. So, good to see you, buddy. So, the other thing that we see is kind of threading our way through all of this story of rebellion and mortal armies warring back and forth. We still get the amazing high fantasy that we love of Malazan. The Path of Hands, we see this mass migration of shapeshifters toward Raraku to become the shape-shifting god. We see a group of Marines accidentally cast into another dimension and have to find their way back, coming back with this amazing ship that is piloted by headless elves whose heads are all piled on the deck, and they can control it with a whistle. We have characters ascending. We have souls being shifted beyond bodies. We have a revelation about these things called the Houses of the Azat, where powerful entities are held captive, yet they're all connected. And so some of the things that I think I would like to tease out of this for use in your game is 3 additional things beyond the rebellion and the siege aspects, and really to see how a religious uprising could happen in a fantasy world, and stealing that for our own campaigns. So, some things I want to tease out here is first is the limitations of power. One of the themes in Malazan Books of the Fallen is that power attracts power. And we discover that the origins of Ordotarol, this magic detonating substance, is a natural reaction to massive outpourings of magical power. As the Warrens kind of unfurls, this magical ritual, which happened hundreds of thousands of years ago, was poured out on this island. It not only blasted the land, but it created this magic deadening effect. And so I love things like that in a game, and especially in fiction. Ordotarol in the Malazan books, the Kore in the Second Apocalypse novels. Things which cause these powerful magic users to go, crap, I can't affect that one person. How do I work around this? I think used sparingly, and that's the key in both of these series. They exist, and they exist in large quantities, but only ever encountered sparingly. They can give us this idea of how to introduce anti-magic into our games, beyond just the anti-magic field. Imagine a villain who has an Ordotarol talisman or a Kore that renders him immune to spells. Okay, well now the magic users have to be doing something else while the fighters actually engage with the big bad evil guy, as opposed to just letting the mages fireball them from across the plains. Yes, Timothy Zahn's force-deadening creatures, the Yismari, if I remember correctly, Padre, the sort of the creatures that they would wear around their necks or on these strange back banner poles to keep them alive. Man, the Heir to the Empire series trilogy was just spectacular. The other thing to keep in mind is that you can have a lot of things going on in the background. And this can be dangerous because, as we know, players love to pick up anything you throw at them. But this also gives the players choice and opportunity. In the middle of this massive, take Dead House Gates, if you will. Let's imagine Steven Erikson is running Dead House Gates as a campaign. It is clear that the main focus as the GM is that he would want the players to engage with this rebellion in 7 cities and this desperate attempt of the soldiers of the 7th to take prisoners from one side of 7 cities to the other. And yet in the background we have this Path of Hands story where the shapeshifters are moving across the 7 cities attempting to reach the Path of Hands and ascend to godhood, which would be a bad time for all, right? A god of essentially lycanthropes would be awful. Well, which one do your players engage with? One, it gives the feeling of a sandbox, allowing the players to jump to whichever storyline seems most interesting. But it also allows for the world to be moving on, even when the players are focused on something else. And I think that's something that we can, as GMs, if we're honest with ourselves, can be a bit myopic about. I'm focusing on this storyline with my players, and the rest of the world is just standing still, only popping up when our characters engage with it. Adding some layers really helps create the, to quote Macrease, the noetic appreciation of the world. It lets you feel like you're in a living world. Now, when you do this, I would also remind you to make sure you put timers on the things that your players aren't engaging with, so that the Path of Hands, is the shapeshifters, the divers, and the Soul Taken are constantly moving closer to the Path of Hands in the background, so that your players know, hey, we're everything in here is on a timer. It's not standing still for us. But as John Wick says, showing up when there's no hope of changing the outcome is really when heroes do their best work. So, power attracting power, the magic deadening, and things going on in the background are two of the 3 things that I really think that looking at the 7 city stories would help bring our games more to life. The other thing is sort of the layered ethnicity of these books. So you have the 7 cities faction. You have people that are sort of analogous to our the Middle East. I think there's strong parallels there. But each city is its own faction. You have desert tribesmen that act as their own ethnicity and with their own prejudices and strengths and interactions with the 7 cities. Then you hit the Malaz Marines, and you have Falari, and you have Untans, and you have the Wiccans from Coltane's Crow Warriors. And the idea here is that places like this are often melting pots. And so we as GMs should be pointing that out. One of the things I love about 2nd edition D&D is if you go back and read the 2nd edition entry on humans, is that it says, hey, all ethnicities of humans are represented by human. There's this acknowledgement that everyone on this planet shares a commonality. And while our ethnicities may change, we're all still human. And I think that ties into the view of Erikson and Esselmont about compassion, about doubt and certainty. Go listen to that interview if you haven't. It is wonderful. So, that's our 7 cities look. If you haven't read them, good luck. The Chain of Dogs is brutal. just when you think you're out, they pull you back into Yucatan. But I promise the Bone Hunters survive in some state and make their way into Lether, which is going to be our discussion on Thursday. And the next Tuesday, for our final stream of the year, we're going to be looking at kind of everything else. We're going to look at the Paths of Ascendancy, the books of the Malazan Empire, as well as Bacalain and Corval Broach, and the Witness trilogy that we have so far, and the Carcanis trilogy. So, whew, it's going to be interesting. Thursday's going to be interesting because each of these I've covered 3 books, and when we get to Lether, we're really going to be covering 4 of the largest books in the series that have no correlation at the start to anything else. So, yeah. So John Doom said, when in the Malazturi would I run a game? So that's interesting. I think, for me, I would pick a continent to start. I would either set it on Genabacchus or on 7 cities. And so I would start a game. I would have everyone make 3. If I were to run a Malazan game, here's how I would do it. I would pick a continent. If I went with Genabacchus, I would set it just prior to the Panian War. Either just prior or just after, sort of between Gardens and Memories of Ice, or between Memories of Ice and Toll the Hounds. If I were to set it on 7 cities, I would definitely set it just prior to the 7 Cities Rebellion, because that story really interests me. And I would have everyone make 3 characters. Everyone would have to make a Marine, or a member of the Malazan Empire. So everybody has to have a character in a company playing heavies, Marines, sappers, or squad mages. That would be character group 1. Then I would need everyone to make a non-Malazan character. So if we were playing on Genabacchus, I could say, all right, you could play anyone from Darujistan, or Pale, a member of the Grey Swords, or a member of like Caladan's Brood's army, maybe Tisti. And then I would have everyone make a 3rd character, where I would allow them to play whatever the hell they wanted to. Someone on the Path of Ascendancy, Tisti Assassins, a Talana Moss, something of larger power scale. And then in my hubris, I would try to run all 3 groups at the same time. Essentially, we would play 1 adventure, and then we would have a point of view shift. And I'd run an adventure for the other group. And then we'd have another point of view shift to the 3rd group. And try over each encapsulated adventure, or each piece of the adventure that they're playing through, to start weaving the 3 stories together. I don't know if I could do it. It is possibly one of the most challenging things I would do at the table. But I think it would be a lot of fun. Like every story, have each point of view arc 3 to 4 weeks, and then jump to the next point of view. And then start pulling the ties back and forth. And then maybe the characters start mixing into the groups. Yes, Tink, I've thought a lot about this. And specifically for Tink, and I'll post this on the Iconic Discord channel tonight, hopefully, depending on if one of our players can make it, I will be running the end of our adventure in 13th Age 2nd Edition. And I mean, it may not be Carl Kiesler quality, but I have a pretty sweet setup for tonight that I think I'm going to take a picture of and post in our Iconic Discord channel. Which, if you're not a member of the Iconic patronage, jump over to patreon.com. If you want to support us, it gets access to the Discord, and we have a ton of great people on the Discord just hanging out. Yes, I mean, the Knight of Knives would be a fantastic one-shot. I think it would be interesting to do So The Knight of Knives, in case people aren't aware, is a novel by Cam Esselmont, but is also the night where Kellanved and Dancer, the Emperor and right-hand man of the Emperor of the Malaz Empire, are assassinated by Surly, who goes on to become Empress Lysine. And it all happens in a single night. The book takes place in a single evening. And I think it would be a lot of fun. And I don't know which side of it I would want to run the one-shot on. Do you play as Kellanved and Dancer and their aides, desperately trying to solve the puzzle of Deadhouse before Lysine's claws descend upon them, her assassins, and take them out? Or do you play as the claws sent to assassinate, for what seem to be very legitimate reasons, the wayward stewards of the Empire and their associates? Either way, it's a kick-ass one-shot. Maybe, no promises, but maybe that's the con game I will do for Savage Worlds at GameholeCon next year. Maybe I'll run 2. Maybe we'll run I'll run both of them. Let it focus on both sides. John Doom, I thought you would totally play undead Kachane Shamale, a big undead dinosaur with swords for arms. Like, how cool would that be? Padre, that would be wonderful. I would appreciate it. But I mean, you are a great friend of the show, and it's through support of people who's back on Patreon, or support us on Twitch, or hopefully in January we're going to be rolling out membership on the YouTube channel, where you can support the channel for just $5 a month. It allows me to do more and cool things like this. It lets me buy books for reviews, lets me keep the lights on in the studio, keep the cameras in good running order. So thanks to everybody who shows up and interacts in the chat. I love chatting with all of you. And to big shout out to Matt, who has won our 1,000th giveaway. I will be reaching out to you. If you don't get back to me, Matt, I will have to give it the prize to someone else. But we do have a complete set of the Fading Suns Kickstarters going out to one of our YouTube subscribers. Matt, I'm not going to give away any more of your information, but know that I will be reaching out to you. So, yes, so Padre, you got to let me know how you like the Torg mini arc. Like I said, I wrote 3 of them. Actually made Kowalski, the aspirant, a techno-demon, a canon part of Torg now, which is fantastic. I even think I made my Istanbul campaign sneakily canon in Torg, thanks to the little mini adventures. So, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I'm JM. This has been Behind the Screen. I will see you all on Thursday for more talk about Malazadvent. Until next time, have a good one.